Tonight, the checks and balances of our great American republic have failed us, every single one of us. And the abuse of institutional government power for political purposes, one thing our founding fathers tried to prevent, and mostly had prevented for hundreds of years, may indeed have come to a halt in 2016. I'm going to tell you, this is going to go down in the history books, 2016, as the year our government's intelligence agencies were weaponized for political purposes to spy on innocent American citizens. It is right now our Attorney General's ethical, moral, constitutional obligation to examine the motives for the spying. You know, the Obama FBI and Justice Department used unverified opposition research obtained outside our country as ammunition to get a FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page. That is a fact. And they never told the FISA court judge that they were relying on opposition research. That, too, is a fact. James Baker, who was the top lawyer for the Obama FBI and the one in charge of helping them present their evidence to judges in the FISA court, he admitted it himself under oath, saying that he never bothered to check the sourcing of that dossier. So using flimsy evidence to spy on innocent citizens, that could very well be a crime. And if this indeed happened, as many believe it did, if some deep state types deliberately spied on the Trump campaign, then some people might even go to jail. The punishment will have to fit the crime. Our privacy, our rights as citizens. I mean, these are ideals that we hold very dear as Americans. No government will take that from us. Not if the American people have anything to say about it. Which is why Rod Rosenstein has every right to be exposing this and to be a little bit annoyed. Watch.
The previous administration chose not to publicize the full story about Russian computer hackers and social media trolls. The FBI disclosed classified information about that investigation to selected lawmakers and their staffers. Someone selectively leaked information to the news media. The FBI director disclosed at a congressional hearing that there was a counterintelligence investigation that might result in criminal charges. And then the former FBI director alleged that the president had pressured him to close the investigation, and the president denied that that conversation occurred. So that happened.
Joining me right now, House Foreign Affairs Committee member, Texas Congressman Ron Wright. Good to have you here, Congressman. What do you want the answer to right now?
What I want to know is how it all started, and I think the American people want to know this. It's obvious that the American people have been through a 2-year spin cycle, and especially with regards to other news media outlets like CNN and MSNBC, who were just absolutely certain there was collusion and reported it that way for 2 years, only to find out after 22 months, $25 million, over 500 witness interviews.
That's because they're bad reporters.
There's no collusion.
That was bad reporting.
Well,
I mean, look, you don't go out there and have no information and no facts and no reality check and spin a story that a political party wants you to spin, which isn't sadly what they were doing. But now we got to ask, to your point, why the heck this happened in the first place. A lot of people believe that it was politically motivated. I'm not saying it was, but what's your gut?
I absolutely believe it was. Why didn't the Obama administration, why didn't they publicize this? And why didn't Comey let the Trump campaign know about the Russian interference? Because that would have been the normal thing to do.
Would have been.
We know that none of the protocols weren't followed by the FBI or DOJ, so don't tell me it wasn't political.
Let me ask you about something else, and we're going to touch on this a little bit later in the show as well. Why is it that President Obama didn't seem to care more about the Russians? I mean, he had the information. It had been reported to him that the Russians were trying to tinker with social media. Why didn't he care?
I think it's because he was absolutely certain that Hillary Clinton was going to win that election. And he didn't want to jeopardize that in any way, and that's why he kept quiet about it. But he did the country a great disservice.
Yeah, he sure did. In that way, I mean, you can't, and I get, like, you know, we're not naive. We know that a lot of countries and a lot of big powers try and influence things around the world. And, you know, I imagine we try and influence some of the news reports in Russia as well. They're trying to influence social media here, but nonetheless, you should have safeguards against that. And for sure,
absolutely,
we should. Are you confident that as we go into 2020, we're going to be able to insulate ourselves from any kind of influence that they may have in that one?
Whether we'll be able to completely do that, I don't know, but I can tell you that this president is going to do a lot better job at that than the last president did. You know, when all of this happened that the Mueller report investigated in terms of the Russian interference, Donald Trump wasn't president. Obama was president, and he had the responsibility to protect the American people, to protect our election. And knowing that there was interference and being quiet about it and not publicizing it, I think, was a great disservice to the country. We will not have that with President Trump.
Hope not. Thank you so much. I think you're right. Congressman, right. A top contender to become the Democratic nominee for president, going straight back to the well, to good old, divisive, old-fashioned, manipulative identity politics. Joe Biden announcing his candidacy today with a message designed to rally minorities while painting the president as a racist who inspires more racism. Watch him.
In August of 2017, we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, come on. You know what? This political tactic, it takes us backwards as a nation. The president may not speak perfectly all the time, but hey, let's face it, neither does Joe, right?
My mother believed and my father believed that if I wanted to be president of the United States, I could be vice president.
His mom lived in Long Island for 10 years or so. God rest her soul. And although wait, your mom's still alive as your dad passed. God bless her soul.
Chuck Graham, state senator's here. Chuck, stand up. Chuck, let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about?
A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
I'm sorry. You know what? That's just too good not to play. But anyway, Biden's message today, a message of division designed to put conservatives on defense. That's what you call dirty politics. When you call someone a racist, think about it. That's probably about one of the worst things you could possibly say. And so immediately they're put on a kind of defense. They're trying to say, wait, no, I'm not a racist. And in doing so, they look racist. So the Democrats figure, why not go with that tactic? But enough with that rhetoric. I want to talk about results. The president has put in place policies that have generated economic growth, most significantly in minority populations, with Hispanics and African Americans now looking at the lowest unemployment rates we've had on record. And women, we're looking at the lowest unemployment rate since 1953. Now, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist in this country. It still does. And there's plenty of sexism too. But as a country, the best way to overcome this, I'm telling you, it's by creating more opportunity and more prosperity for everyone, not by selling division and handouts and reparations, for goodness sakes. We cannot and we will not tolerate racism in this country, but the path forward, I promise you, is not for politicians to point all those fingers and to name call and shout he's a racist, but to offer ideas, real ideas that can improve the lives of every American citizen. Joining me right now, Strategic Communications Director for the Trump 2020 campaign, Mr. Mark Lauder. Mark, good to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Trish.
So they're going to say he's a racist. He's a racist. You can't elect a racist. And Americans are saying, is he a racist? And when he says, no, I'm really not, that immediately puts him in a position of having to defend himself. I mean, I, for one, would actually like to see a Democrat that has an idea or two about growing our economy, an idea that might actually work, but instead all I'm hearing is he's a racist.
Well, and it's important to note that entire segment is built on a lie. It's something that's widely been debunked and taken out of context over and over again. And here's the important part. It really doesn't matter that Joe Biden got into the race. He's just one of 20 right now. But whoever's going to come out on the other side of that primary is going to face a President Donald Trump who actually created manufacturing jobs, 500,000 of them, whereas under the previous 8 years, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. It's because of the leadership of the president. I know that the former vice president thinks he connects with blue-collar America, but this president brought blue-collar American jobs back. That's what he does. Today, the former vice president held a fundraiser, apparently, with a giant union buster. So we're seeing the hypocrisy, but the president, whoever he has to face come next year, he's ready, he's got the results, and the American people see it. They see it in their wallets. They see it in the historic low unemployment rate. It's just... they see the results they're getting.
I think you're right, you know, and they're feeling a little bit better about their prospects and maybe feeling a little bit better about the country. Let me ask you about the relationship between Barack Obama and Joe Biden, because there are some reports out there saying that, you know, he's not necessarily going to take Obama's support. Is he trying to distance himself? And would he be trying to distance himself because of the whole Mueller investigation, the fact that we spent 2 years doing nothing, and the fact that we may get that IG report very soon in which we might learn to what extent the Obama administration was trying to pollute the intelligence community negatively against the now president?
Yeah, I'm not going to ascribe any motives to the former vice president. That's up to him. But really, it would be smart for any of the Democrats not to seek to run on a third Obama term. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton. It's not going to work in 2020 because let's remember, in 2016, the voters turned away a third Obama term, and not just by somebody who promised Obama light. No, President Trump promised to dismantle the Obama agenda. He's done it, and that's why our country is so strong.
So that might be a reason there for distancing yourself, because you know that was 8 years of nothing. I mean, nothing. 1.8% annual economic growth. No, thank you. Right? I mean, no economic growth. And by the way, a more divided country. And that's what I blame him for, because he went in there supposedly to unite us and left us in a much more divided spot. So I hear you. So why would Biden want to campaign on any of that?
Absolutely. Plus the weakness on the foreign stage. We're now leading again in the world. It's a pretty clear choice.